Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be working on the 510 swapped S14. We have so much to get done, we just need to get right on into it. Alright, so the first thing we need to deal with is actually the rear end on the S14. We're going to be using the factory diff, but what we don't want is an open carrier, which means you spin one shaft one way and they can spin different ways and they're just not locked. So we're going to drain the fluid out of this thing and we're going to weld the 4 spider gears together, and that will give us a welded diff. So it's going to spin the 2 tires the same amount of time, the same amount of revolutions. All right guys, we just took our time and we welded the diff. Now both axles cannot turn independently of themselves, which means we're gonna spin both tires one time and they're gonna move at the same speed. Lucky for me, I thought this was a slow turning rear end. This is actually a 4.08. So this is gonna spin pretty quickly. And I'm probably only gonna turn that 2-barrel carbureted motor to about 5,600 RPM. So this is really going to be the life of the party and help us to not just have fun with the car, but for it to feel lively and peppy as well. So I'm going to go install this in the car, and then we have to tackle our next hurdle, which is going to be figuring out a drive shaft. We're going to have a Mustang gearbox and an S14 rear end, so we need to figure out a way to get the tail housing of the output shaft for the gearbox and the flange for the rear end on one shaft. The welded diff is in, and I had to tighten up a lot of these subframe bolts. I think the person I got it from had them slack because it was dropping it. So I got those in. I also installed the axle bolts so everything turns the way it should, and obviously it's on the ground, so the piece right there is not gonna turn. Now, our issue, or not issue per se, is that we have a Mustang T5 here, and we need to get this to connect to that. So what I'm gonna do is use the input shaft here from the Mustang, bring it all the way back here, and then use the S14 flange and try to get it welded onto that shaft. All right, this is the drive shaft for the T5, and this is the S14 shaft. And if you guys notice, this is much thicker than this is. I wish the S14 drive shaft kept this size all the way through, but what I'm gonna have to do is probably cut this somewhere and just sleeve it tightly over, like keep going with a bigger pipe until it reaches this size, and then cut this and weld that onto this, and just hope that it's not too out of balance to I guess run the car, because this thing isn't going to turn more than like 6,000 RPM. So hopefully I can do it myself. If not, I'll have to take it to someone who can do it better than me. Alrighty guys, after cutting so many pieces of pipe, I actually found a half shaft, and let me show you what that looks like. So these two pieces came off of a half shaft from the S14. That would be this. So those two pieces came off of that. And what I found is that the Mustang pipe and then the piece from the half shaft on the S14, they slip right over one another, but it's a bit wobbly. So I'm going to use these two pieces of aluminum, wrapping them around. I'm not going to use this in the weld itself, but it's going to be used as a shim to make it extremely tight around this. I'm going to clean up all this metal so my welds penetrate very good. I'm going to do the same thing with this part. Going to weld it on, and we should be good for a drive shaft for this thing. All right, so it was definitely a successful day working on this thing. I got the, trying to fit underneath this thing. I got the diff welded and installed, the axles installed, the drive shaft is welded up, and it is installed as well. The amount of input shaft that's out definitely concerns me, but it's 2.5 inches out, and I think the actual length of the input shaft itself is 4.5 inches. So we still have 2 inches in the box, so hopefully that's enough. If I ever have any issues with it, I'll just take it back out and add a piece onto the drive shaft, and we should be good to go. Tomorrow we need to drop this mount because the trans is just hanging on it right now, and we need to adjust this mount to where it bolts to this and not just resting where it is. Let me tell y'all something. Where there is a will, there's definitely a goddamn way. I had so much work to get done on this thing, and I do not have a lift, but I have a forklift. So what did I end up doing? I ended up getting the pallets, putting the car on the pallets itself. And no, I'm not gonna tell you guys that it's safe, but it didn't break. The car didn't drop on me, so we got a lot of work done. The interior seats are in, back seats are in, switchboard is wired up. That would be on. Flip it up for the distributor, fuel pump, and then press that to start it. So nice little switchboard. It's not perfect, but we still need to get a shifter for the T5. And then up front, we still have a lot of work to do in the engine bay. We need to route this exhaust properly on this side as well. I think I'm just gonna come straight through the hood. We have the distributor hooked up. We have the, what the hell do you call this thing? The flap to open up the choke on the carburetor. We need to get a belt on this system. And also what we have to do is we need to get a pedal set up to actuate the clutch. What do you call it? Hydraulically. So these usually come with cable, but I've been fighting with a way to get this thing done to use the factory cable. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna buy an hydraulic setup that bolts right here, one here, and I think the other one is right here, and it puts a slave right down here, and it actuates the clutch. And then I'm gonna get a Willwood Master, and we should be good for actuating the clutch. We made our own little homemade drive shaft. Hopefully this one holds up. We have a welded diff, and I believe that's the 408 gears in the back there. So we got the diff installed, we got the drive shaft made up. Trans is bolted in kinda properly. Not all the way, so I had to put some washers here to offset this. This is the back housing from a T5 from a Camaro, so it doesn't sit the way that a Mustang one sits, which is flat, which is fine. It's not gonna cause too much issues. And we finally got this thing running, and I'm gonna show you that. But there's so much work that actually went into this thing. I'm gonna show you guys exactly what all had to happen and what still needs to happen for this thing to get in driving condition. Alrighty, now before I end up cranking this up and you guys throw a hissy fit because I'm starting it from under the hood, the reason why I'm starting it from under the hood is because right here is this is the distributor and the choke for the carburetor on one switch. This is the fuel pump, and whenever I start it in the car, the motor starts, revs, and then shuts off because it's not tuned. So I'm going to turn everything on and then start it from the starter solenoid in the hood, and then hold the throttle myself so that it stays on. So that's the only reason why you won't see me starting it from in the hood. But just to show you, if I was to turn it, it'll start or try to start from in the hood. It's just that I have to play with the throttle to keep it on. Okie dokie. Let me turn my power on, turn my switches on in the hood. I mean, in the car, not in the hood. Everything is on, and I do not have a flathead. All right, now I need to turn everything on. I just primed the fuel pump. I don't want to leave it on too long. This is my starter solenoid. Checking for fuel pressure, giving it a few hits of fuel, trying to stay clear of those damn exhausts. This thing just sounds so freaking healthy. I cannot wait to sink my foot into the tank with it actually running and driving. All right, guys, I would be totally lying if I was to say that this didn't take me longer than a goddamn week to get to the point where the switchboard's installed. You can start it from inside. We need to deal with getting the throttle cable hooked up in a way where it can actuate the throttle from the carburetor. We need to also make sure that we have a cooling system, we got a belt on it. There's a lot of things to do. We actually need to put in a hydraulic clutch system as well. So the car's not done, but it is in a state where it can run. So I always try to get my engines in the car, get them running, then get them driving. I mean, that's the only way to do it, but I'm definitely really happy with it now. But this thing stressed me out so bad trying to figure out a lot of the stuff. But you know, that 5.0 is not supposed to be in there. So there's going to be some stuff that stresses you out. And I really had to tell myself that, you know, the results are important, but you got to enjoy the process. And no lie, from I told myself that, I really came down off of that stress and being able not to finish it and struggling to finish a video, and I just was able to lock in, get the work done, and I enjoyed doing it, no lie. I love doing stuff like this. Definitely I don't recommend you put your car up on 4 pallets and work underneath it, but that's what I did. I'm not gonna sit by and play like I can't get something done when I know that I can. And like I said, I enjoyed every minute of it. I don't know if you guys have to balance work, family, and this hobby, but it gets stressful at times, and you have to remind yourself that this is not what you're gonna do for one weekend. This is what you're gonna do with the rest of your life. So give yourself some time, give yourself some patience, and all these builds are just gonna come together and work properly as long as you stay focused on them and as long as you stick to it. You can't leave something sitting in your garage for 6 months, a year, and just pray that it's gonna start working. You have to actually start wrenching on it. But I am super happy that the S14 with my Ford 5.0 swap is at the point where it can run now. The next video you guys see on this thing, we're gonna be driving this bad boy. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And always remember, don't drift without your dreams. And I'll get you guys on the next one.